Was a girl running in a group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look at Buddy, hot rod and large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod.
He's got this Bitcoin thing, and I don't really get the Bitcoin, but here's what Elon said this week. We expect to begin accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment for our products in the near future, subject to applicable laws and initially on a limited basis. Tesla said this in their securities filing. So okay, Chuck, here I'm lost. Here's how I get lost. Tesla's going to start taking Bitcoin for a $100,000 car.
Right.
I'm going to send them $100,000 in Bitcoin. I'm going to send them 100,000 Bitcoin.
Right.
Now, Tesla has 100,000 in the bank because I sent it to them.
Well, they actually have they bought $1.5 billion. So they have 1.5 plus your 100,000. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
But I mean, they have all this Bitcoin.
So, right.
How do they cash it in?
They go to an exchange. It's just kind of like if you bought gold. So the easiest way to explain this to somebody is to think of it as virtual gold. So let's say you wanted gold. You said, I don't trust. And again, this, let's not get too political, but it has a lot to do with the fact that the American dollar is becoming less valuable on a global market. And there's a lot of things that we could talk about here. But the idea is,
I know
the American dollar. So imagine I have an option. I could take $100,000 in cash from you, or I could take $100,000 in Bitcoin. So as I mentioned to you the other day, my Bitcoin went up 10% overnight. The American dollar is definitely not going up in value anytime soon. So as a global business owner, I would prefer Bitcoin because it could. I mean, imagine you can give me $100,000 this week, and Bitcoin go up 10% next week.
If I had a global product, yes.
Well, no, I mean regardless. So let's say you pay me 100,000 Bitcoin next week. Bitcoin goes up 10%. Bitcoin's gone up 1,000% in the last couple of years. So that money you're giving me today, the American dollar is going down in value, but Bitcoin's going up. Now,
so
obviously,
you could make money just having Bitcoin.
Yes, that's what I said. Yes, I mean even just in the last week, Bitcoin's gone up between. We'll talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. Elon has talked a lot about Bitcoin in the last week. So he had a Super Bowl ad about Dogecoin, and I told you, I bought some Bitcoin during Super Bowl at 38,000. By morning, it was worth 45,000 a Bitcoin. I mean, that's simple. I just went up, X% overnight.
7,000 Bitcoins, if not dollars.
Percentage of however, I didn't own one. I didn't buy one Bitcoin, but I mean, my percentage wise, we're going up. I was buying Bitcoin. I almost bought Bitcoin at $2,000. I kept saying I should have bought it at $2,000. I should have bought it at $3,500. And this whole time everybody said
should have bought it at $50.
Should have bought it at $50. The first use of Bitcoin was to deliver pizza, and the guy gave him like 30 Bitcoin. Which would be worth how many millions of dollars now? I mean,
wow.
There are stories of people that were playing poker tournaments and they're getting paid 10 Bitcoin, 20 Bitcoin. They'd be millionaires now. I mean, that's the whole thing is that when we never saw that coming. But you're right. There's also the risk of it going down. At one point, it dropped, 20 and 30% overnight.
So if I can take my Bitcoin certificate or whatever.
Well, it's literally a virtual wallet. So you have a physical wallet in your hand full of money, and you know how much is in there. I have a virtual wallet, and it tells me how much Bitcoin I have and how much other currencies I have.
And I can take that to the bank and get cash?
No.
Okay.
So what you can do is you go to an exchange. Again, let's go back to the idea of gold.
Where's these exchanges?
They are online, but there are also places now that you can go and you can put money into an ATM and you can that will send you Bitcoin. So again, imagine you're buying.
What about the opposite?
The opposite, you remove it. So you go in and say, I'm selling you X number of Bitcoin. I'm selling my Bitcoin. I want my cash. Right.
So you can get your cash.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but you have to go through an exchange. Just like if you had gold, I can't go to the bank and say, here's one gold bar, give me money. You have to go to an exchange and exchange the gold for cash.
When we were kids, we used to pretend stuff and we used to play and we'd have money and stuff. And I'd say, okay, here's your money. And I go, and there'd be nothing there. And that's about how I feel about Bitcoin.
But here's the
right. $100,000 Tesla. Here you go.
But there are people.
There's your 100,000.
Right, and I get that. But remember, there are people in this world that'll pay $10,000 for a basketball card or for a beanie. Used to pay Beanie Babies or for $1 million for a guitar. So I mean, and the idea is intrinsic value. Like there are people in the world that say, Bitcoin to me is worth, if you're selling Bitcoin at $45,000 Bitcoin, I'm going to buy some. So like I said, I bought some the other day during the Super Bowl and it was 38,000 Bitcoin. I didn't buy a full Bitcoin. I just threw, some money at it. And there are people that say that's still a good value to me because I have faith that Bitcoin's going to go up. And that's what Elon Musk did. Elon Musk has faith that Bitcoin's going to go up over time. So he's gambling. He made a $1.5 billion gamble. Think about, he bought $1.5 billion. It went up 20% in a week. Where else can you make that kind of?
If somebody buys at $1.5 billion, it's going to go up.
Right. Well, yes.
He makes his own.
Yeah,
he manufactures his own stock market trades.
Well, remember, he can do the same thing with Tesla with a tweet.
He's done this before with a tweet for Tesla.
And so that's why that our government is very. They're always looking over his shoulder. SpaceX had some issues with the FAA recently. He's had some issues with the SEC. And that's part of the dance that Elon plays because he's a wild man. He's an outsider.
He is. He's definitely a wildcatter. That Bitcoin is now in the blue chip S&P 500 index.
Yes,
they are. Wow.
But again, that's the future, George. I mean, that's the thing is that we the people are looking for decentralized currency, and that's what I see a lot of value in that. I see a lot of value for countries that have issues with their government, have political issues, and are not very stable and unstable.
Elon is looking to upend the automotive industry with his electric vehicles, and he's also looking to upend
that's kind of his theme.
The money world.
He's upending space. He's upending building tunnels underground. Solar panels. Yep. And that's what I love about the guy. He upends the market because that's what we need. We need more guys like Elon Musk.
He's a maverick.
Yes, and I love it.
He's a wild man, is what he is. Here, one more story on Tesla before we get done with this virtual money. I'm gonna get a virtual cigar from Chuck after this show. Give me a virtual.
I can buy you a virtual Cuban. Yes.
All right. China's government officials met representatives from Tesla Inc. recently in response to growing reports from consumers about battery fires. Unexpected accelerations. I hadn't heard that. And over-the-software update failures. That I had heard about. China's State Administration for Market Regulation said in a social media post on Monday that its officials, along with those from, and you got to remember when you go to China, you got to put all the departments involved. There's a lot of ministries over there. Okay, this is the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, Ministry of Emergency Management, Cyberspace Administration, and the Ministry of Transportation had met Tesla recently without giving a date. In response, absolutely, this is Elon, Tesla said it would thoroughly investigate the problems reported by consumers and step up the inspections. The industry ministry in May urged Tesla to ensure consistency in its China-made vehicles after some Chinese customers complained about less advanced computer chips in their cars. Oh, this whole chip thing has really turned into a crisis. Let me just tell you. Elon's got a little grief in China, but hey, you know what? I've said this before on this show. Anybody that tries to do business in China ends up with mud on their chin.
I was going to say, you think it's hard to get a permit around here?
Oh God! And then if you don't sign your name correctly,
right,
they chop your head off. They throw you in the jail for 300 years. These people they're crude. They're behind civilization 100 years.
But again, in the United States, we want to be on the global market. That's what we have to do. That's why you have all of these American companies going over there and trying to play ball.
Unbelievable, and they're playing ball all right. Jeez, oh Pete. It's been. I just can't put a grip on virtual spending, I suppose, for something as big as a Tesla. Are there any other companies that accept Bitcoin?
Well, but so, George, though, there's no reason why if you had the right credit card, you could buy a Tesla with your American Express card, right? I mean, there are celebrities that buy Lamborghinis with their American Express, whatever, black card. So It's not that, so what's the difference between that piece of plastic with numbers on it? You have a piece of plastic with numbers. I have a virtual wallet with numbers on it. You've been dealing with virtual currency for years, So, just the idea is at the end of the day, it's backed by American dollar.
Nobody can go into my wallet without me shooting them.
Right.
and get my credit card.
Well, and the same with.
But they can get your your Bitcoin.
Well, let's be clear though.
Anytime they can break into the internet.
Well, and so that's why there are people that store their Bitcoin offline in a safe. And so you've heard these stories of the guy who has a 1,000 Bitcoin somewhere. You saw this story last week. The guy had Bitcoin locked in basically in a USB, and he couldn't unlock it. The guy was basically a millionaire, but he can't unlock it. He just forgot his password. So you can take that money offline and put it in essentially a safe. But then again, unlike your big safe, whatever at home, this is a little USB that I can't lose. If I lose it, I'm out all those Bitcoins.
Well, I hope somebody wants to buy that USB from him. I mean, you got to.
No.
That's got to be a niche market to try and find somebody to buy your Bitcoin from.
Today it is. Today it is. But that's the whole point. Is that again, PayPal and I'm trying to think of some of the different credit card companies are starting to deal with blockchain and stuff like that. So it's becoming more accepted. And that's the thing is we needed one person to come forward and say I'm accepting of this, and Elon did that. And of course now this week we've had a lot of celebrity tweets. I know how much faith you put in celebrities talking about Bitcoin, but again it's becoming more mainstream. It's not a nerd thing anymore.
He puts $1.5 billion in, and the stock goes crazy. So what are you going to do? He made his own stock market craze. So that's people are they're hooked by what the stock market does.
But some people, instead of saying I'm going to play the market, I'm going to play your game, they say I'm going to move the game over here. That's what Elon's doing every day.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it about him.
Huh? I got to move on, but because we got electric vehicles to talk about. But I think I have to agree with Chuck in one respect. Our government, our politicians have just destroyed the dollar, the value of the dollar. I think I'm going to go buy me a bag of Bitcoins. Well, see what that gets me.
If you're dealing with people on a global stage, it makes sense to use Bitcoin or another currency that doesn't lose value, that gains value as opposed to a currency that's losing value.
I'm going to buy me some Bitcoins, and I'm going right up here to Strax and get me some bread.
I'll teach you how to do that.
All right. Somebody's going to have to.
You'll be able to do that sooner or later.
All right. Somebody's going to have to. All right. Let's get back to business here. Let's knock off this Bitcoin stuff. That's crazy. All right. The electric vehicle, we got to do an update on some electric vehicles. You're going to like some. It's pretty cool. After passing for years on the automaker electric vehicle rush, and they did, Toyota Motors in North America now says it will introduce this year, 2021, two new battery electric vehicles and another plug-in hybrid. The vehicles are expected to go on sale in the U.S. in 2022, the automaker said Wednesday. So in other words, and they're going to have a Lexus. One of them will be a Lexus. So it's going to be, the Toyota's fine. Toyota was big in the hydrogen cars. They wanted hydrogen fuel cells, and Toyota was really perfecting the fuel cell. And now they're going to get in they got to give in. They have to capitulate and get in the electric car business.
Yeah, you have no choice if you want to stay in the game in certain states.
Absolutely.
Europe and places like that.
General Motors, this is cool. I saw this car, and it's cool. General Motors is working on a strategy to build at least one new electric vehicle inspired by, guess what, the Corvette. Oh yeah, sports car. Potentially expanding the brand from a single performance model into a family of vehicles. Popular familiar family of vehicles that are people familiar with the matter, told Bloomberg. If the plan is approved, the most likely model to emerge later this decade would be a marriage of the crossover and a sports car. The automaker has toyed with the idea of building different types of vehicles with Corvette styling and performance. There's a picture of one here that's beautiful. In the past, but it never took the plunge. It never did it. Purists worried about modifying the image of the vehicle with legions of diehard fans and owners. And I'm going to address that. Ford did it with the Mach-E. They could have called it anything else, but they had to call it a Mustang Mach-E. They should have left the Mustang off. And if General Motors wants to excel in electric vehicles, they need to leave the Corvette name off of it. Call it something else. Make it look like a Corvette, but don't call it a Corvette. Mustang owners and Corvette owners are diehards, and they're not going to put up with it. They're not going to like it at all. They don't want a Mustang Mach-E, and they don't want a Corvette Mach-E. They just don't. That's how it is.
But what about when the day comes that you don't have a choice as far as having an electric car? Like if you live in a state like California, you have, I mean, think about the potential of, imagine having the guts of a Tesla with ludicrous mode in your Corvette or in your Ford Mustang.
Oh, it'll be fast.
It'll be a whole new world, right?
They said this Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, is 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Right.
That's fast enough for me. That's more than fast enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd fit in it. But I got to tell you, the purists, the collectors, there are going to be people, when you say this, there's going to be people that got that 2020 Corvette in their garage, and it's 2035, so it's 15 years old now, and you can't buy anything but electric vehicles. They don't want that called a Corvette electric vehicle. They want their Corvette to stay pure.
Right. But then the brand dies, though. But then the brand will eventually die out, and you'll be telling your grandkids, "What's a Corvette?" You know, I mean, that's the big question: is do you want the brand to survive, or do you want it to become an Oldsmobile and a Buick? I mean,
tell it to the people that bought '57 Chevys.
Right.
That brand never died.
But remember, you're talking to a guy. I've got a gas-powered 40-year-old DeLorean sitting in my garage, and I have to really wonder, long term, if it's viable to rebuild it as a gas vehicle if I want to keep it the rest of my life, because it may come to the day that I can't buy gas anymore. But gas becomes so rare; it's $10 a gallon.
Well, you need to find somebody that totals a Tesla and buy the chassis.
Well, you may be onto something there.
Put your DeLorean body on a Tesla.
Gonna make that a summer project, George?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
I got enough projects. Okay, Amazon.com began testing the first lot of its Rivian Automotive Inc. electric delivery vans in Los Angeles as it works to fulfill a pledge to meet the goals of the Paris Climate Accord 10 years early. Oh, God. The Paris Climate Accord. Who cares? We pay for most of that, or we did. The Seattle-based e-commerce company plans to expand the program to 15 more cities this year, it said in a blog. Amazon, which is backing Rivian, along with Ford Motor Company, which has a stake in Rivian, is buying 100,000 electric vans that are custom built for Amazon Prime. The first vehicles were due to start making deliveries this year. Rivian has raised a lot of money, but I haven't seen many cars come out or many trucks come out. Let's see what happens here. Rivian recently raised $2.65 million in new funding from a group of investors that were led by T. Rowe Price Group, and is one of a number of startups trying to bring new electric vehicles to market and take on the incumbent king Tesla, of course, whose vehicle skyrocketed last year. Rivian plans to build a full-size powered sport utility vehicle and truck at a plant in Normal, Illinois. They bought that plant down there in Normal. It used to be Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi sold that plant. But here's the key to this whole thing. Rivian plans to build a full-size battery. They have raised billions of dollars, these guys. And we don't see no trucks coming out the back door yet. I don't get it. Might be another Fisker, might be another Heinrich Fisker. Raise all that money and then, well, we'll see ya. We couldn't build it. It didn't work.